Hello, my name is Jasmine Lee, and I am not your mama's astrologer. Welcome. It's Monday. You made it through eclipse week. Good job. Hoping you guys made it intact, or at least, made it limping away with, vibes to help you heal, because that's really where we're at this week. There's so much this week, and I've been thinking how much I want to say and how much there is to process. I even took notes, you guys, because I think after something as big as the eclipse, whether it was personally impacting you or not, though I don't see how it could not be personally impacting you since it was in Aries, this week is really going to be so much about integration, so much about our heart's longing, so much about starting over. It's almost as though the puzzle pieces were laid out really funky. And now the puzzle pieces are laid out in a way that maybe, hopefully, makes a little bit more sense for you. So I think this week, because the wounds are here and exposed to be irrigated and healed, that the tagline going into this week is, you cannot be triggered if you aren't loaded. Okay? And the truth is, I think we were all pretty loaded last week. So where were the triggers? What happened? Like, having this form of reflection this week, I think, is really going to be powerful, because I think when we, as I was saying last week, make friends with our monsters and make friends with our triggers, then the loaded aspect gets less. It's not as powerful. It's, I think that right now we're touching on really bigger topics than just what happened last week or what goes on in our day-to-day. This is like deep stuff. On a personal level, for me last week, I was hanging out with my friend and I was like, gosh, this thing that happened to me, I lost a friend. Our friendship ended a while ago and it's still hurting so much. And I just told her I'm really struggling to get over this thing. And she's like, maybe it's not just that, maybe it goes so much further back than that. Maybe it's an ancestral wound. And then I thought about that. And my mom had a falling out with a friend that was very severe, and she never quite recovered or had friends after that. It was a really severe dismantling of her belief system around sisterhood and friendship. And I always felt so sad for her, because female connection to me is so important. And so I thought that was a really interesting concept. And why I say it here in this podcast is to bring a full circle of maybe the shit that you are going through right now runs so much deeper than you know. Maybe it isn't all yours that you're carrying. Maybe stuff is coming up that doesn't even all the way make sense to you, because it goes so deep and so far reaching into your ancestral lines. The notion of having to keep quiet as women for so many generations, the notion of women betraying each other during the witch trials and calling each other witches, and in a bad way, because I think that's a really good thing. But now I do. But if you can trace your lineage back to the repressive point as anybody, even as, a white privileged male, there is, I'm sure, ancestral crap that you have to deal with too. Because who knows where we were in past lives? Who knows where our ancestors were? Who knows the ghosts that are knocking around in our rib cages? And I think that this eclipse is particularly powerful because we are revealing ourselves to ourselves. And wherever it hurts and whatever you're having a hard time letting go of, instead of just taking that one situation and being like, it's that one thing, for me, it's that one friend. It's like, if you can just dig deeper this time, dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and feel, where is the core wound that is recreating itself inside of you, re-traumatizing inside of you over and over. And what is the core value that got dismantled as a result of some of the painful things in your life. It never hurts to create a timeline of our history, of all of the bigger events that happened in our lives, all of the things that had great impact, and to, make a timeline of those things and go back to those things and question, is there a pattern here of triggering? Is there a pattern of pain? Is there a subject, a theme to the things that happened to me? That can be some really powerful healing moments. And this week, I feel like we're going to get these aha moments of, oh, it's not about this, it's really about that. And having a big shift in our integrity around our pain, because we all have it. None of us are free of it. And it's about allowing the big shift. It's about allowing these deep forms of transformation to move us. Because, you guys, here is one of the bigger astrological happenings of the year. It's happening this week. It is Taurus season. We're coming into Taurus season, which I love for us, very foundational. And also there is Uranus, which is the planet of big changes, of sudden changes, of movement, of, it's ruled by Aquarius, so it wants innovation and different, is going to be right next to Jupiter, the planet of good luck. Why? I mean, this is like far reaching. Okay. And this conjunction hasn't happened since the 1940s, when we had a new redefinition of work and work values, and Rosie, the we can do it, and finding new ways to work while the men were off to war, and finding new ways to have solace foundation within inside of ourselves. And I think that that's really powerful that that's happening now again, because Taurus is about finances. It's about foundations. It's about work. It's about how we rebuild home. And I think that this is a really interesting time for that. And so while we've had this big soul quest with this eclipse season in Aries about the self, about me, about, what I am going through, me as in you, what you are going through, that's now going to be transitioning into how do we rebuild this life of ours? And we might see it globally too, the financial structures and governmental structures and things that are outdated and holding us back, that Jupiter is here to say, when you are willing to change, when you are willing to innovate and let go of old traditions, then that's when something can be revealed to us. Because when we're always doing it the same way, we're always driving the same way home, we can lose ourselves even in the drive that we know every single day. So even on just a smaller level, cooking a different dinner, driving a different way to work, calling someone you haven't in a while, thinking of different ways, waking up early instead of late, waking up late instead of early, working out in the morning instead of the night, fixing or shifting our set of routine boundaries is going to get so rewarded in this period of time, because it is time to let go of the tradition of it, of doing it just because we're supposed to. I see that so much in this new generation of children and young people who aren't wanting to get married right away, who aren't wanting to just have babies right away. It's this new feeling of, why do I have to do that? I feel that in my own world after I had the marriage and the kids and then the divorce and the separation, and being like, okay, well, I did all the things I was supposed to do because that's what was dictated to me, in a nuclear family. And now that all got shot to hell, now what's the expectation? And that's nice, because listen, the only expectation there is the expectation I put on myself. And so now is a time to reinvent the wheel, the tradition of it. I think of the musical, it popped into my head this morning, of Fiddler on the Roof, the tradition song, and just like this very patriarchal, setup for something that has shifted so very much, like that we're still relegating ourselves to these routines, these confines, these expectations for what? Because tradition, because it's all that we know, because it's how we grew up, because it's what we were told. And this is the time, this is the week, this is the moment to say it for yourself. What have you outgrown in standard structure or just your own soul structure? It doesn't even have to be so broad, outside world stuff. It can really be, what are the stories that I've told myself? What are the truths with the little bunny fingers, quotation marks, truths that I have held without going deeper into a cycle of questioning the very why of that truth? It isn't until we start questioning our truths that we really start to see the plot holes that need to get filled in. And that's kind of what I love about this week, because with Chiron still here, ever the wounded healer, as I've said the last 3 podcasts, ever the wound to heal. It's really good though, because the wound is here to be healed. So don't ignore it. You know, the people you see over the next few weeks that are really starting to shift and make progress, you can be that person too, because the energy is here to support you. And when you do start building a new foundation, new traditions, new values, Jupiter, that planet, that lucky planet, is going to bless you and say, hey, cool, you're thinking about it different. That's so rad. I think that we get ideas in our head that there are things that we can and cannot do. And, you know, there's basic morality. I'm not saying go out and be a dickhead. That's not like at all the vibe, right? I'm saying, what if the simple act of boundaried no's inside the divine feminine, where we're always trying to help and say yes, finding our divine no, how powerful that can be when we say no to things that we don't want to do. When we say yes to things that excite us, that move us, that we stop just coming home and making dinner and getting through that day. Like, what happens if every day can be sacred because we aren't putting a value system to it? We aren't holding ourselves to some weird, totally unrealistic standard that we all have different ones, especially depending on our astrological signs. But we all are holding ourselves up on these pedestals of what we think we're supposed to be. And if we took that out of the conversation, if we stopped saying, I'm supposed to do this, and started instead doing the things that we want to do. And of course, again, you guys, no permission slips to be a dickhead. I'm not saying like, don't get your work done. I'm not saying be, you know, an irresponsible person. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm saying that how can we do the dishes different? The soul dishes. How can we be getting our hands in the soapy water and cleaning different? Why is it a must? Why can't we relish the things we have, the homes we share, the cleaning rituals, the sleep rituals? How can we shift those things a little bit so that they become something different? So that we're not just getting through the day, we're finding these moments of such extreme beauty that the mundane can transform itself and us into something different. And we can we can like let ourselves, in fact, off the pedestal, put down the baton we've been holding and relish what we are creating in the present moment, because future projections will only create anxiety, stress, fear, all of the above. The past will only create sadness, regret, depression, and or, sentimentality that keeps us trapped in who we used to be. But if you can have moments today and all this week where you're looking out the window, as I'm doing right now, you can see the wind moving through the leaves, and you can just enjoy that. And just take a moment and say, I don't have to be doing anything right this moment, except living presently. And imagine if you could take even the worst day that you had. You could take it apart and you could discover and find the really beautiful moments of it. That's growth. That's progress. Because no matter what, the worst day of your life, there's still beautiful moments. I remember the night that my mom died. It was the hardest night of my life, but the sky was so clear. It was so beautiful. And I just found myself staring at it in the weight of the grief that was about to come, and just knowing, the not knowing the very deeply, intensely sad life that was about to befall me for a time. I was still able to see that sky and to see those stars and to understand that life and death is something so much bigger than just our own little selves. But that if we can embrace and love our own little selves a little bit every single day, especially the moment you wake up, to take a moment to love yourself just a little bit, to be able to speak to what's hurting and why, to be able to understand that you are so valuable to yourself in this life, that the only person you let down is the expectations that you hold. That truly, as a whole, as humans, we don't really expect too much from each other. And if we do, then that's probably because we're expecting too much of ourselves as well. And that exhale, that moment to just let go of all of the hurt, of all of the anger. Because here too, this weekend coming is going to really reveal to us a lot about our power dynamics, about who has the power dynamic in our lives. Is it us? Is it someone else? How do we regain our power? We are the witches that didn't burn. We are the people that are here to pioneer a new life. We are the people that have survived, moved, transcended, and to believe that all of the pain that the people and our family before us inflicted that didn't end up in our bones is madness to think about. We all are mirror holograms of all of the things that have come before us. I think it's why there's that notion of history repeating itself, because we keep trying to move, to find peace, to ground, to war, to fight, all for what? I guess the notion of change, right? But if we were all just focused on how we could be changing ourselves, on how we could be changing our family's narrative, on how I could be healing the deep sadness of longing for a sisterhood that is complete and binding and trusting and loving, if I can heal that wound, then what do you think that makes room for? It makes room for more. It makes room for the very thing that has been hurting me and has been making me feel something is denied me to come back to me, to return, to re-engage, to recreate what sisterhood is for me. And what is it for you? If you can just take a moment, what is the itch? What is the thing that is feeling so unhealed in you that really revealed itself last week? Well, this is the week of innovation. This is the week of being rewarded for making the shift, for making the change, for staying present and always being willing to rebuild our foundations. Because foundations are liminal. They're not always, as foundational as we think they are. And they're not as permanent as we want them or think we want them to be. A foundation doesn't have to last forever. It has to create the platform for us to then do and succeed in the way that we see ourselves doing and succeeding. And then once we outgrow that platform, which I feel collectively, a lot of us have outgrown our platforms that maybe we built in COVID, maybe we built even before COVID. We've outgrown that, and it is time to rebuild something new. And instead of being afraid of it, trusting that Jupiter, the lucky planet, is right there to say, if you go, I'll go. If you turn, I'll turn. I got you. Because the I got you is you. You got you. I don't got you. You got you. And that's so important to know. So the card I pulled is flexible. That's right? Foundations, flexible foundations. How powerful could that be? Frogs can jump from lily pad to lily pad, so can we. But there is a need to come together. There is a need to say our truths, and there is a need to take accountability and understanding for why everything got out of hand in the first place. Accountability is such a deep piece of healing because there's always the thing that hurt us. And I see it in my mind, the thing that hurt me. But then on a deeper level, there's the reason you let it hurt you in the first place. And that's where the work is. That's where the true new foundation can be built, is not in the thing that happened to you, but in the way that you can work through it, process it, and heal it. And that's what this week is about. It's poignant. It's powerful. It's moving away from that traditional roles that we hold ourselves. And it's a standard none of us can reach anymore because it was never our foundation to begin with. And that's what ancestral healing is all about. And that is what being freaking human is all about, is just understanding that we're all big bags of hurt. But if we can narrow it down, if we can understand it deeper, I think there are core wounds that separate us from each other, that we all have, that come to roost. And that understanding them, shaking their hands, and walking side by side with our pain is really the way to heal it, to include it in the conversation of us being human. You know, social media, it's all about the pretty pictures, the dresses, the date nights, the concerts, the things, but underneath all of that is what? And it's so important that we go deep into our foundations and structurally reframe how to do life. Because when we do that, Jupiter is going to bless us. Because when we do that, things can shift. The way we've always thought we needed to live can move and become something more palatable to what is now. Because all we have is right now. I'm hoping your now is filled with deep transformation, with a power that comes, engulfs you, and transmutes that pain, wherever its source is, to become your best friend. Many blessings. Please subscribe, like, follow, whatever platform you're watching on. I would love the support. I'm also here for you. You can message me. All of my contact information is on all of my handles. We can do tarot spreads for where you're at right now. We can see where the astrology is personally hitting you. I got you guys. You need it? I got it. You just got to call me. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.